We are live. Welcome back to All for United. I'm Ben. I'm in a dark room, mainly because if I turn my light on, that happens, and that's bloody annoying. Hit subscribe, get in the comments. Easy question this afternoon. Ralf Rangnick, interim manager. How are you feeling? Get that in the comments. Hit a like on this video. Let's have a chat about the man himself and the breaking news this afternoon from the Athletic and BBC's David Ornstein that United are close to an interim appointment.
Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
So it's out there, and you guys can react right now in the live chat. We're going to get some Reds on to have their say on today's breaking news. Fabrizio Romano also tweeting now, so we've got quite a lot to get through on the timeline. Ralf Rangnick. We're going to have to get that one right, aren't we? Was the Manchester United hierarchy's first choice for this role, and it looks like that he has been landed. It looks like that he is going to come into the job. Apparently, the only, so to speak, difference between the club and man, so to speak, was what happens after the interim period. It looks like now that Rangnick will take up a consultancy role. So he will probably be in alongside Fletcher, the technical director of football, and the director of football, John Murtough, whatever these roles are that these three have, or two have at this moment in time. Apparently, Rangnick and Woodward and the Manchester United hierarchy have been in contact for several weeks. Apparently, he was a candidate before Van Gaal was hired, according to rumours online now. He is going to come in as a temporary basis over the next 6 months, the interim role. Then 2 years after it's been agreed, he will be consulting. He will leave his role at Lokomotiv Moscow on the right terms with their blessing. United and Lokomotiv still in talks, so that is not done yet. So it is looking like Ralf Rangnick will be the interim manager. He's apparently already in Manchester. The issue is that his visa is yet to go through. Hello to Keane. Hello to John as well. Not now, darling. My daughter's decided to come in and get involved with the news as well. Let's bring Mark in quickly. Mark, your thoughts on the news?
Hello, mate. You'll have to bear with me. I'm not very well and I sound like death. But yeah, I mean, it couldn't have got any better from an interim perspective. Obviously, that's what they want to follow. And to bring someone like him is going to completely change the way and shape of Manchester United. I think, from what I understand, the way that he tends to teach football is to do with the gegen press. And that's something that was taught in German football and something that Tuchel, Nagelsmann and Klopp all bear and use within their systems and work very, very well. He's made a very big point in previous interviews about there's no sideways and backward passing. And basically, I think there are 5 principles. The first one being how we are when we have the ball. The second one being how we are when we don't have the ball. The third one being how we are when we retrieve the ball. The fourth, when we lose the ball. And the fifth, to do with set pieces. But essentially, it's a very high press, very counter-attacking football. And I mean, the fact that he's obviously held out as well and said, look, I'm only going to come in if I get a more sort of deputy role higher up afterwards is fabulous news for us as well, because he is very good at recruitment, very good at scouting, and is known for that. So it is, listen, I appreciate not many people will know about him. I've learned a lot in the last few weeks at least about him. And it is a very good appointment in for the next 6 months.
Yeah, I feel like I need to speak to someone or a fan of a club that has been under his stewardship, so to think, to learn a bit more about him at the moment, because it's really difficult. You obviously get these 1 minute to 2 minute bites from conferences and previous interviews and stuff online. And yeah, they look great. But as we all know, the Bebe highlight reel looked phenomenal before we signed him. I think it's a really difficult situation with this whole interim manager tag, because I don't like that. I don't like the idea of an interim manager. I think it just confuses things. But I also think ultimately the thing about this hire that does excite me, and maybe more than the actual interim management hire, Mark, is the 2-year consultancy afterwards. We want footballing people who know how to build great football clubs at board level and within decision making roles. And it looks like Rangnick will be getting that after he's taken control of the next 6 months. That's exciting.
That's right. I just to quickly say, actually, I agree with you with the whole interim appointment thing. Unfortunately, I think because the managers that we've looked at, Pochettino, Ten Hag, perhaps Luis Enrique, perhaps, and a few others, they're not available until the summer. So our hand has been forced. And that's just the way that we're having to go with it at the moment, unfortunately. But as I said, I think it's a very, very good appointment, and I think that another part of the philosophy is that it's one-touch football, and a player will only have the hold of the ball for no more than 3 seconds, and it's rigorous training, which would mean less injuries. And we'd see some more exciting, quicker football. So I think it's a great appointment, I really do.
Get a live chat, guys. What do you think about the appointment? Mark, you mentioned there maybe a bit about his style of football and from what you've seen online, and I've seen the same. But do we have the footballers? Do we have the players to press with a Rangnick press? Do we have the footballers to play 1 or 2 touch football like Rangnick wants to play?
Yeah, well, this is something I was thinking about moments ago, actually. I'm not entirely sure we do. Now, by that, I mean that I think with his systems, it requires a certain level of intellect. And also, obviously, a high amount of fitness. I think players like Donny van der Beek would fit that very well. Mata would fit that very well. Now, unfortunately, it's only a 6 months interim, so we have to hope that we do have those players. It's not going to be the case of we're going to have to go and get 3 or 4 players in January. United won't do that, and that's just not going to happen. So we can only hope that we do have those players. I think an example for you, and Keane mentioned this in another chat actually, is you're probably more likely to see Cavani in certain games start over Ronaldo, depending on the opponents that we're up against, because obviously he does play that high press. And I think you'll see a lot more of the team being utilised depending on the opponents we come up against. So as I said, it's not going to be a huge change in those 6 months. We are going to have to utilise the players we've got, and we can only hope that those players are going to fit that system.
I hope so. John says Ronaldo can't press, but did Kane press a lot under Poch at Spurs? Can you have one, i.e. Ronnie, and not press? Who knows? This is what Carragher and Henry were saying last night on the Champions League show over in the States, actually, about that if you're going to try and play a certain way, you need every single figure or every piece of your unit functioning as one. And with Ronaldo, although he's not a problem because he is solving the issue right now with the goals he's scoring, he's making the problem a lot less impactful. Off the ball, he doesn't help. And ultimately, if a manager's going to want to play a certain way, it's going to be interesting to see how Ronaldo fits into that. Finlay says, surely players are capable of one-touch football at United. Unfortunately, though, again, someone like Fred gets the ball sometimes and shits himself. And I think under a manager like Rangnick, he won't take that. He would want you to be calm and composed and to be able to make the right decision immediately. And there's players within our squad that are very, let's say, excitable on the ball. They're really rash. John says certain players can play 2-touch. I think Van der Beek and Sancho would be good at it. Yeah, spot on with that. Players like Scott and Bruno will evolve, I feel. And I think that's another thing here, right, Mark? We're bringing in someone who potentially could also help improve some of the players within this squad too. Oh, Mark?
Sorry, say that again, mate. My hearing's a bit funny on this side. Sorry, bro.
We're bringing in a manager here who could potentially improve some of these players as well, which is really important with the next manager coming in the summer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I don't think Fred is actually a very good example. I think for the Brazilian team, as I've said before, he plays further forward. He's used within a system to play one-touch football, and actually, I think he in particular could benefit with Rangnick coming in. I mean, John hit it nail on the head there. Van der Beek is going to be a perfect example for that. He tends to play, or what he did do at Leipzig was play a 4-2-2-2. A very strange formation with no real width, but a lot of pass and move within the centre of the park and pushing that ball forward. He also played a 4-4-2 diamond, which would obviously allow Bruno to still play. I think Bruno, for me, could well be a worry, actually, on whether he gets as much regular football. But if you have other players that do step up to the plate and do improve, then that may not matter so much.
Yep. If you've just tuned in, The Athletic and David Ornstein are reporting that Manchester United have done a deal with Ralf Rangnick. Apparently, it's going to be on a 6-month interim basis, so he'll take over as interim manager. It'll be after the Chelsea game because we're waiting on work permit at the moment, and United to do a deal with Lokomotiv Moscow, which is Rangnick's current club. Apparently, they're going to involve a 2-year consultancy after the interim period. So he will not become permanent manager in the summer, but he will take on a consultancy role and will consult with the board and the directors of football at the club, which is John Murtough and Dan Fletcher. So, Mark, his current role is currently at Lokomotiv Moscow. He's head of sports and development there. He hasn't had a managerial role, so to speak, I think for about...
Since Leipzig in 2019, I think.
Yeah, but I think he only went in there, didn't he, halfway through the season as an interim appointment. Even then, I think he went in there at Leipzig for, I think it wasn't a whole season. I think it was about 3/4 of the season after I had a shocking start to the year, and he went in on a so to speak an interim role there. His last full role with Leipzig was again like a season up to 2016. So he hasn't been in management really properly for a long time, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. Does that concern you?
I mean, yeah, there is that air of concern, I guess, but I don't think he's much as a manager as he is a coach. And when he came into Leipzig, when they were having a poor season, he transformed that team and got them out of a lot of shit, quite honestly, and really improved them. And I think that that's what we have to take from it, is that he can come in and do that within a small space of time. I mean, there is that air of caution. You're absolutely right, but listen, as much, we're in a very difficult position at the moment. I get that, but we're only 5 points off fourth, and that can change very, very quickly. If he is able to come in, improve the squad, improve the players, instill this new way of working that's going to be more exciting, more attacking. You can have a lot of fans that get behind the team, and see a huge improvement, and we can turn that around hugely. Now, listen, I'm not expecting us to go on and win the treble now, okay? But there is still so much room for error from other sides, so much room for improvement from us, and we can still change it around. And I do firmly believe that we will get top four. I do believe that with whoever comes in, and I think that he would be the best person to be able to do that. You said that yourself. He wasn't in Leipzig for long, and then he was the head of recruitment for them before, and Nagelsmann took over from here. He was his number 2, I think, at the time. But he came in and really reshuffled things and changed things dramatically. And at the moment, only 12 games in, that's exactly what United need.
Yeah, and I think it's important that ultimately with Rangnick coming in, potentially improves the coaches. Potentially he gets into those coaches as well and improves the philosophy in and around the team and the club too. But again, interim appointment. My biggest concerns about an interim appointment is you'll get a club playing a certain way for so long, and then ultimately that manager goes out, a different manager comes in. I get that he's consulting, but every manager is going to have their own way that they want to play. So I think it's really, really interesting. Obviously, certain tweaks here and there. Let's bring in Connor quickly. Connor, just first of all, your reaction to the news.
I don't know. Now I've kind of calmed down a little bit to the initial excitement. It's dawned on me a little bit that everyone's excited. I think personally, everyone's just excited that we've got somebody. I think is the main thing, because I don't think we wanted to see that coaching set up for much longer than we needed to, because obviously a lot of people believe that was part to blame as well as Ollie. And I do agree, if Ollie was going to go, then all of them should be going, in my opinion, not just one. Not gonna lie, I don't know too much about him. Obviously, I know his time at Leipzig. I think, I tweeted it earlier, the thing that excites me the most is the consultancy role, whether that means that Woodward will be pushed completely out of the picture now, because that was rumoured to be where Ed Woodward would fit in. Who knows whether that's going to still be an option for him. It's good that we've got some stability in some sense. I do agree with what you were just saying, though, Ben. An interim is difficult because let's say he goes on and wins the Champions League or the Premier League or whatever. Let's say he wins something this season. Then what? Another coach is going to come in with a different style. I hope there's a plan that maybe he's going to play a certain way for the kind of managers we're going to be approaching next summer. Maybe, because it doesn't make too much sense to get him in and then someone completely different next summer, because it's just going to get confusing for the players. And you're going to have 3 sets of managers then over a year telling you different styles. So it's good that we've got some kind of stability. Like I said, it's the consultancy bit I'm more happy with, because that shows that we're actually getting some footballing people on the footballing side of the club, which is good.
I think also half the excitement, Connor, is coming from the guys who are really pro Ten Hag, because I think if you match up styles, then potentially Ten Hag's style of play is maybe a bit closer to that Leipzig side that obviously took a lot of influence from Rangnick. But I also think on that, people are forgetting that Pochettino really was the one who brought in the press and executed it at Spurs before Klopp came into Liverpool, before Guardiola came into City. And I think people forget how Poch's Southampton team pressed and kept the ball as well. So I think actually with the 2 managers we're being linked here with Pochettino and Ten Hag, maybe the perfect stepping stone and maybe the perfect consultant to have around. I just find it a bit weird. I find it a bit. Don't you guys just find it a bit weird that United have gone, right, we need an interim manager. The only way we're going to get an interim manager if we give him a 2-year deal where he can be a consultant and he's got to be able to demand what this club does. Okay, yeah, let's give it to him because we need an interim manager. Still feels like we have no plan.
One of the things I liked about Poch, though, as well, I believe what you want to believe, but the one thing I was happy with is it seemed like he wanted to be here. Does Ralf want that same thing, or does he just want a job, kind of advising United?
Ralf
know.
does. Ralf does. He wanted it 3 years ago when Solskjaer took over. He mentioned it 2 weeks ago that he would want the Man United job to turn it around. And you're absolutely spot on, Ben, where you said about the stepping stone. Poch does very much do that. Ten Hag definitely does that. And if we can get someone with the calibre of them, I think it is a perfect stepping stone because they do play a hard press. And with regards to what you mentioned with Christ, never mind. Come back to me in a minute.
Yeah, I think I'll just back up what you were just saying. Yeah, about the stepping. So that's a good. I'd prefer to be honest, to get a permanent now because it gives us more stability rather than changing in 6 months' time. Like I said, what happens if Ralf does go on and win trophies? What happens then? He's not going to get the job permanently, or he'd like to think not. I don't know. Like I said, I do think it is a good stepping stone for bigger. I say bigger managers, but the 2 that have been spoken about. But it might not be either of those 2. It could be someone completely different that nobody's talking about. That's a worry because, like I said, if it's going to be someone maybe with a different style, maybe Ten Hag doesn't want to come to us. He's doing well at Ajax. Maybe he doesn't want to leave. Pochettino clearly wants to be out of Paris, which is fair enough. He's not my number 1 choice. He's a lot of people's number 1s. Everyone's got their own favourites. But I just hope there is. Well, there isn't a plan. There wasn't a plan before this. Let's put it that way. Otherwise, this would have been done. I said this a few weeks. This would have been done in the international break, not now. That shows you that there's not a plan. So I just hope there is now. I hope they're looking at it going, right, okay, we've got him in now, 6 months. They should be looking at a permanent manager now, not wait until the end of the season and see how he gets on to appoint somebody.
Callum's just about to jump in as well, but let me just quickly jump onto this comment because I find it quite interesting. Jeff Smart says, "Lol, I'm from Germany and Ralf Rangnick is a blender. Won 0 titles, pure arrogance and disagreeable." Look, at least if Ralf Rangnick is one thing, he is a huge believer in his own philosophy. And I feel safer in the hands of someone who has an idea and an ideology of knowing what they want to achieve and where they want to go than someone who's sort of in between. And I think Ollie's biggest downfall is in his final months and even parts of last season into this season is he was always caught in between how he wanted Manchester United to play. He wanted to play this counter-attacking football that we look great at, and for us to execute that, but execute it more, score more goals, but then also control the game. And he could never set up a team to do both or have the best of both. At least with Ralf Rangnick, I think we know what we're going to get with him. I think the issue we've got is, as me and Mark have just spoken about, and feel free to rewind this later, guys, or get in the comments if you disagree with this. Has Ralf Rangnick over the next 6 months really got the tools to execute what he considers the complete footballing philosophy, this G-Gen press or whatever it's called? And that's the question in my head. And that's why I don't think an interim manager ever sits well with me, especially on these terms. But of course, it's exciting. It's another footballing person coming into the club. And the utter excitement from this is it's going to be another footballing person in and around the club.
It's interesting you say that, Ben, just very quickly. I watched something on him, must have been about 6 months ago. And he said, give him 2 weeks and he will have everybody working how he wants them to.
Well, you can have 2 weeks. There you go. There's your 2 weeks. We'll forget about the Chelsea game. Coming on Monday, we'll forget about the Arsenal game.
Break.
Yeah. Forget about the Arsenal game. We go against Crystal Palace. There you go. There's your first game, Crystal Palace. We'll let you have Arsenal as a training game. Crystal Palace is your first one, Ralph. That's when you show us you do your job in 2 weeks. But the reason why I got this comment up was because I had a conversation earlier on with Serge, who mentioned to me on Twitter, and I'll be quick because I want to get over to Cadam because he's sat in a car and he probably looks like a right weirdo just sat stationary in his car with his phone out. So what I found weird is everyone keeps talking about Leipzig. He was responsible for Leipzig. I understand that. But going into a new franchise / corporation, twisting them around with zero expectations to become a good football club, not a great football club, a good football club, because they haven't really achieved anything, let's be honest, to going in whilst Manchester United, the biggest football club in the world, are in a mess on the pitch and off the pitch as an interim manager to manage the team are two completely different situations. You've got to remember when he went into Leipzig, he wasn't just a manager, he was also the director of football at the same time. It was like a mixed role at first. He's going in as an interim manager now. Then he's going to be a consultant. Two completely different jobs, two completely different kettle of fishes. I don't think we should be pitching one up against the other because this job is far bigger, far more weight to it, and also far more difficult than what he went into at Leipzig. Callum, let me quickly bring you in, mate. You look proper dodge there. Look at you.
Yeah, I'm in the darkness in my car, but I thought I'd jump in because I'm pretty happy with the news. I just saw it all fly through when I was driving. I was like, what's going on?
I was going to say, you're a Rangnick fanboy, aren't you? Go on, tell us. How are you feeling? What do you make of it?
Well, no, not really. To be completely honest, I didn't know a lot about him a couple of weeks ago, so I did a bit of reading up on him and watching videos on him and stuff like that. And from what I heard, I like the sound of what he can bring to us. I think I'm very happy with the fact that he's come in. It sounds like he's probably, in terms of an interim manager, he's probably the best that we could get right now. And the fact that United are so adamant on getting this interim shows that the manager that United really want isn't available till the summer, because he's told them, I will not leave my current club until the summer. And I personally think that's Ten Hag. I think if it was Pochettino, I think Pochettino would be the manager right now, to be honest. So no, I'm very happy. He's something that United fans seem to want us to play like. He's someone that has been so pivotal in revolutionising the Bundesliga, especially obviously Hoffenheim and Leipzig. So I'm really happy with him, and I think the fact that we've got him for the consultancy role when the interim time as a manager comes, I think it finally shows a little bit of forward planning. I think we mentioned on the chat, and I think it was you, Ben, that actually said it, that the structure at Ajax suits Ten Hag a lot, and I think with the idea of Rangnick being in at United in a behind the scenes kind of role, it improves the structure of United. It helps them work with the likes of John Murtough and Darren Fletcher, and it makes that structure a little bit better for the likes of Ten Hag to come in. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I think he'll do wonders for United in the time that he's got as manager, and I truly, truly hope that it brings in Ten Hag in the summer.
In a previous interview, as Mark just said there, Callum, I don't know if you heard it, apparently Rangnick said that he needs 2 weeks to completely transform the ideology of a football club. So do you think in 2 weeks, at the very least, he can get the coaches on his side and improve the coaching side of things? Because surely the point of an interim manager is that it means you keep a bit of stability with your backroom staff as well.
I think we should get the source for that first, shouldn't we, Mark, before we start spouting things?
No, I watched something on him only a few weeks ago, and I'm sure he said 2 or 3 weeks. Give me 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll have everyone playing how I want them to. I'm absolutely spot on with that.
I mean, it could happen. I mean, if he believes in his abilities and his CV suggests, like I saw that comment before about him not winning a title, but or a trophy, but he brought Leipzig 4 divisions up and into the Champions League. That's the equivalent of taking like Accrington Stanley 4 divisions and putting them in the Champions League in 5 years. Like it's an insane achievement.
Let's not forget with infinitive budget as well, Callum.
Hoffenheim didn't have an infinitive budget, and he brought them up 3 divisions and took them to the Champions League and almost won the Bundesliga. Like, you know, he didn't have infinite resources with them. So it is clear that he's a good manager. I have heard inklings that he's not being considered for big jobs before because he wants total control, which in modern day football is quite rare now. Which probably suggests why he's at the likes of where he, you know, obviously with Leipzig when he left there, he's not being looked at the bigger jobs. You know, with this consultancy role, it fills me with a little bit more confidence knowing that he will probably go into that, because knowing United, if he was to do quite well and there was still a better option out there come June, July, United would probably just go, oh, screw it, we'll just go for him and give him the job. But, you know, this idea of no trophies and all that, it's silly because he utterly revolutionised the Bundesliga and how they play football and how they bring in the gegenpress and how they transition from defence to attack and how they use playing out at the back and how he uses the press from the front to try and eliminate the space so that he can get the ball back closer to the opposition goal. He's a very good manager and a very good director of football. And, you know, 2 weeks is probably, you know, a very short amount of time. Obviously, he won't be here for the game on Sunday against Chelsea because the work permit issues I'm hearing, but he'll be here for the Arsenal game, and I think it would be a very good start. You know, imagine if we go and beat Arsenal, it'd be a brilliant start to his tenure. And I personally think, you know, he was, like I say, I think the permanent option wasn't there in terms of Ten Hag, and that's probably why we've not gone for a permanent one. But in terms of an interim manager, Rangnick was 100% the best choice out there in the world. So I'm very happy, and the added bonus of the consultancy role just shows that maybe United are learning and showing some forward planning for a change.
I think that point you just made, Callum, as well, just very quickly, Ben mentioned earlier he feels that it's not necessarily forward planning, and he still doesn't feel that there is a plan. But I think it's very much the opposite. I think that actually, if you know how robust they are in their way of thinking, and they've now actually said, all right, we'll take someone on with the idea that they're going to be a consultant for 2 years. That's not what United are about.
That wasn't my point. My point was that knowing this Manchester United board, they've not turned around and gone to Rangnick, oh, come and be interim manager. We've got this big plan that we've got an idea that we want this style of manager to come in the summer. And then we want you to take over as a consultant to assist Fletcher in this, assist John Murtough in this, to help this manager shape this club to become this. It's more that Rangnick's gone to them and gone, yeah, but I want a 2-year consultancy role after, at the very least, or to be part of the club after this interim period.
Knowing how
and they've
United
gone,
are,
trousers pulled, yes, that's fine.
But knowing how United are, they would have gone flat out no. So the fact that they've actually gone in and said, okay, I think that is forward planning.
I don't know.
There's an element of truth to that, though.
I don't know. I think at times this United board have found it easy to have their pants pulled down by certain managers in certain different scenarios. I think, I don't know. In my mind, I just think, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, by the way. I think it's a good thing and I think it's the right thing. But I don't think it's Murtough or Woodward or Arnold or the Glazers' intelligence to give Rangnick that role, if you understand what I'm saying. I
understand both your points, though, but I think there is an element of truth to both, because the thing is that Man United of 4 or 5 years ago, when it was just Woodward and Arnold and the Glazers, I think they would have gone no, and we would have ended up settling for second best. I do think Fletcher and Murtough probably did play a role in going, well, we didn't actually consider that, but if you feel like that's good and you can stay on at United and improve us behind the scenes as well and help us in terms of director of football and technical director roles, then that can only be a bonus in terms of the footballing side. It's going to sound controversial, but I think everyone should agree with me. when it comes to Ed Woodward, if you gave him the business side of things and said, you don't frigging touch anything to do with football, you go out there, you find advertisement, you get sponsorships, brilliant. Completely leave him alone with that. Completely on board with him doing business deals, because he's good at that, because that's what his role is. He's a businessman. But the idea now that we've got these two figures in Murto and Fletcher, a player that knew the club so well, now Rangnick will join that setup. It helps the structure of the club, and it'll stop the things like having our pants pulled down, like with the transfer fees we were seeing for so many years. A lot of people outside of the club and in different fan bases will go, oh, well, you spent nearly £1 billion. And it's like, yeah, but not well. And the reason why we've done that is because of the Glazers, because they don't know how to do the due diligence on how to spend it properly. Now, if we'd have done that well, United wouldn't have been in this situation, but it was almost like a bad business model to do so, because if they had that football person by the side, like a Rangnick, we wouldn't have signed so many of these players for such ridiculous fees. And Rangnick would have put stop to that. So that's what I'm so excited about. And I know you're a big Pochettino fan, but I don't think you'd say no to Ten Hag either, Ben, especially with a better structure in place. I think personally, you'd probably prefer Ten Hag if there was a better structure in place.
Can I just disagree slightly on one point that you made
earlier? But that's a different conversation.
just on this 2-week thing that has been mentioned a couple of times. Let's remember as well, we're going into the busiest period. He's not going to have too much time on the training pitch. It's going to be game after game going into this Christmas period. So he's not going to have what a normal manager and what he would have had in the past time on the training pitch to go, right, in this certain scenario on the football pitch, I want you to do this, and all the different coaching elements. He's not going to get that because it's game after game every 2-3 days when we lead up to Christmas. So yes, he might have said that in the past, that he only needs a couple of weeks to implement his style and the players will suit that. But that's with a full, pre-season, and obviously in Germany now we've got it as well, this winter break and everything like that. He's not going to get that coming up to Christmas. So that's just a slight downside. And again, it backs up what we all said. This should have been done a few weeks ago. And at least he would have had that 2-week window in the international break to put some kind of style across. Whereas now we're going into it he might come in, let's say next week, Arsenal, Palace. We've got back-to-back games coming up, so it's going to be tough for him.
It's a good run of games, though. As Mark said the other week, it's a good run of games, Connor. Good run of games for him to come into.
Yeah, he's not going to get an easier. Well, obviously Arsenal are on a little. Obviously, I know they got turned over the other week, but it's the best run we could have hoped for. But my point was that on the training pitch, he's not going to get as much time as he would have had previously. So he's not going to completely turn this United side around, or not straight away anyway. I'd expect it to take a little bit longer than a couple of weeks, just because of the amount of games we've got.
Yeah, mate. Before I bring John Silk in, Mark, I know you've got a run, bro. So do you want to have just a final piece from your point of view? And by the way, get in the comments. So we're not really arguing over it because I think it's good news that the 2-year consultancy is in there. But I think that the two questions we're asking is, have the United board been clever getting Rangnick on a 2-year consultancy, or has Rangnick forced their hand? Do we credit the board with this, yes or no? Get in the comments and let us know your thoughts on that, and in the live chat potentially. But go on, Mark. Apart from that, aside from that, your final thoughts on this breaking news today that is done deal with Rangnick as interim?
Yeah, as I said, I am very, very pleased with this. I think it's the best appointment, as Callum said earlier. I think it's the best appointment that we could possibly have in a 6-month period, and I really hope that it does galvanise the players into, starting to pick up steam. Really, really happy with that. Really, really happy with the potential of 2 years afterwards. I think he's the best fit for that as well. And yeah, overall, very, very happy indeed.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for jumping in. I really appreciate you, bud.
Much,
Take care. And I hope you're feeling better soon as well. I know you've been under the weather recently, so I hope you're feeling better soon. Loads of comments coming in. Jeff, Ronaldo and Rangnick equals trouble inevitable. At Rangnick, all 11 players have to keep pressing. Eric says, one of football's smartest minds. Tom says, Rangnick at United, the Prem is going to be interesting. Eric also have another comment. I thought this deal made too much sense for this board. Props to them if they do get Rangnick. John Silk's with us now, so hopefully he'll jump in a sec. I can't see his face anymore, but he'll be back in a mo. John says, Rangnick won't revolutionise anything in the Premier League, but that's not the point. He'll get players running, and there's always a bounce. Why not, Ralph? Do you think United were forced? Oh, okay. We've literally just spoken about that, I think, John. So hopefully you got your answer. And Shaffman says, if they don't give him power, he'll fail. He needs power to implement what he wants. Look, Callum, you're in the car, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, mate. But it's one of the exciting things about having Rangnick compared to any other potential interim manager is that we're not just hoping on a motivator, someone to come in to just get the players happy for the next 6 months. We might actually see a starter player at Old Trafford for the first time in what feels like ages.
Yeah, I have got to go in a minute, so I do appreciate you coming to me. Yeah, I mean, this idea of style of play, I think I've got a weird opinion. I don't particularly think we need one style of play. You know, Ferguson didn't have one style of play. So many managers don't. It just seems to be this ever since Guardiola came into Man City and when he started at Barcelona, there had to be this one sole style of play that you had to use, and that was it. And as long as it had a fancy name, it sounded good. But, you know, we will start to see a more controlled, structured performance, I think, from the players. And I'll tell you one thing we'll see is ruthlessness. If Maguire carries these performances on, Jesus Christ, he won't be playing in the first team. Same with Shaw. I think we'll see Van der Beek a lot more now. I think he's the kind of player that would really suit Rangnick as well. So I am really excited. Really excited. Like, I saw a couple of comments there. Look, the 6 months, you know, it's not a lot of time, but yeah, there is a new manager bounce, I guess, and I think Rangnick's kind of philosophy will really work with the players. I am curious to know what is going to happen with the coaching setup. I think that'll be the next piece of news to come out. That'll probably, you know, start filtering through in the next few days. But, you know, it's a good time to be a United fan. I think it's something that we should all be excited about. Look, I personally think these next 12 games where the run was so not easy, but it was less hard, if that's right. But I kind of think the board were trying to get to those games for United, for Solskjaer. And after the performance against Watford, they just went, no, we can't do this anymore. And it kind of forced the hand. So Rangnick will definitely, I personally think will wipe the floor with those sides. And that would put us back into, never mind top 4, but I think that could really put us back into contention for possibly even top 2 spots. Maybe not the title, of course, because I think Chelsea will run away with that now. But you know, I think it should probably confirm us in the top 4. Those 12 to 13 games, you know, they kind of should kind of define our season a little bit. And you know, like, we don't play City until the 5th of March. Like Karthik said, this is a great run for a new manager to come in and really get the confidence back in the players, because every single game is winnable, and Rangnick could do that really well for us. You're on mute, Ben.
I was going to say, you should have just said that we're going to win the Champions League and had done with it, mate. Honestly, what's going on with you?
No. Somebody
I did
else
think you was about to say we're going to win a league. Guys, hit subscribe, hit a like on this video, get in the live chat. John's just disappeared. I was literally just about to cross over to him. I think his volume's gone. Okay, right, a couple more comments. Sorry, Callum, you can jump out if you want, and then
I'm going to jump. See you later, guys.
Reviews. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Neil says, smart move by the club. John says 1 or 2 touch would improve. It would also determine what players are good enough and who are not. I actually think quick movement of football, Martial may be a regular starter as well. It's interesting, this, isn't it? The Athletic, they describe him as the godfather of modern coaching. The initial contract is 6 months, still waiting for his work permit. United is still to do a deal, I believe. Is it with Lokomotiv Moscow to get him out of his current role? But United have agreed a deal with Ralf Rangnick to become interim manager. Connor, come on then, let's come to you, and hopefully John will then get back in and we can get him to have the final say. Ralf Rangnick, happy with the direction moving forward?
Content that we've got on interim. I wouldn't say happy. Very happy that he's moving to a consultancy role afterwards. That's the bit I am excited about. The interim bit doesn't, because I mean, the one positive, I guess, with another manager coming in that's not this current coaching staff is it's a clean slate for all the players now. And nobody, you know, it's a clean slate. Let's start again. Let's see who performs under it, and let's see who doesn't, and let's go from there. I hope that there is a succession plan. Like I said earlier, I hope that the board are looking at a permanent manager now. I don't, you know, you'd like to think that they're looking at it now, not waiting until let's see how Ralph does and then we'll decide. Let's get it sorted, you know, kind of now. We've got enough, Pogba contract as well we need to look at. There's plenty of things that need sorting soon. So yeah, I'm content and glad that we got it sorted at least this week, because it was dragging on a little bit, and I thought we're going to go into another game week where we haven't got some idea of where we're going. Callum made a good point. It'll be interesting to see with the coaching setup. Obviously, will Ralf bring any former coaches across? Maybe not. It looks like it's just going to be just him and the current coaching setup which is there, which, to be is that going to make too much of a difference? What was the point in sacking Ollie if you're going to keep all of the same coaching staff that were there that let him down? And people, as people know, Ollie didn't do the coaching. It was the setup that were there. I'd hope that Ralf has got a bigger influence that he can.
Oh, sorry, Connor, quickly, just on that, I was going to say, you're just about to hit on Ralph's influence, and maybe you're going to get there. But could it just be a bit like how we talk about maybe the players need a better manager to improve? We've got a really young coaching team there in McKenna, Carrick, Ramsey. And if you go further back to, like, is it Cochrane and some of the other guys in and around the club, we've got really young coaching set up. Could it just possibly be that a manager and someone like Rangnick can also help improve those guys, can add more strings to those guys' bows? Because he will ultimately, as we know in terms of his philosophy and how he likes to teach it, he'll be the one instructing them what to go and do in the sessions. It looked like Ollie Moore turned around and said to them, he's more like how I want to play. Here's who we've got coming up. Right, you go and do the sessions. Here's the plan, kind of thing. I think the management of them will be completely different under Rangnick. Do you not agree?
Yeah, and that's exactly the point I was going to get to, that his influence is probably going to be different over the coaching setup than Ollie had, because I do agree. I think Ollie just went, yeah, this is how I want to play. Can you do the coaching sessions around that? And just kind of left him to it. And Ollie was more of like the man management, the day-to-day and these kind of things. And like I said on a previous show, Ollie got involved in every single area of the club. Ralf probably won't do that. He'll probably just stick to the first team, just focus on the 6 months. He's not going to be too fussed about growing, like pushing the academy. He's not going to be too fussed about everything else around the club. His sole focus is going to be on winning games. So in some way that is good, because, like I said, I wouldn't expect us to in some ways, I hate to put it down on it, I am going to be a bit pissed off if we do see a flip of a coin with a new manager, because then that just shows the players' attitude, that they completely chucked Ollie, under the bus and just completely down tools him. So in some respect, that is going to be quite annoying and hard to watch. But overall, ultimately we all want United to win, and it will improve. Don't get me wrong; he's a quality manager coming in, but I just really hope that there is a full plan for next summer, because he might win a trophy this year. I still don't think we can. I think Callum's right. Maybe we'll make a push for top two, but I think Chelsea and Liverpool are a bit too far now for a title push. But, cup competitions are there. The FA Cup and Champions League, anything can happen in those competitions. So it's wide open now. But maybe I think you are right. Ralph's influence over the coaching setup, it might improve them. McKenna is regarded around Europe as one of the best young up-and-coming coaches. Let's not forget that. Carrick maybe not, but McKenna especially. So maybe it'll do them the world of good, and fingers crossed a new manager comes in, with new coach setup, and maybe keep some of them around, because you do need like Carrick and Fletcher. You do need ex-players around the club, I feel, to keep that kind of identity of the club.
100%. Harry's boy, agree with Connor. An interim isn't ideal, but tied to a future consultancy role, it could be good for the future of the club. May says, big welcome to Ralf. Now the man is come on United. And Zakir says, that's the biggest change our club is going to do since Alex Ferguson. And Kevin says, great show, guys. Only just found you. Do you think Ronaldo would fit in with his high press game? As per some of the comments earlier on, and a fan who's in Germany, answer, I think, is actually no. I think that's what's going to be interesting, and that's going to make a lot of stories over the next 6 months come to fruition. Connor, feel free to jump, man. I know you didn't have long, but if you want to stay and listen to John, also feel free to stay. Just want to go over a couple.
I love listening to John. I'll stick around.
I also just want to go through a few Fabrizio Romano tweets that have just come out. So he has just tweeted something that Miller Collin, who's a football writer and journalist for the Mirror, he deals with European football, just reiterating that Rangnick rejected Chelsea in January. He was apparently then their choice before Tuchel on an interim basis when Lampard got the boot. Apparently, Rangnick said then, I'm not an interim coach. To the media and players, you would be the 4th month manager. However, he's now accepting a United job because of that future consultancy role with power pushed into his hands. I can't wait to read more about what this consultancy role entails. I really can't, because It could be anything, couldn't it, John? Anyway, John, look, I've got to be honest, mate. I don't have long. I have about 5 minutes. And I've got a couple of questions for you. So we're going to have to keep this quite brief. First of all, reaction. Ralf Rangnick, interim, then 2-year consultancy.
Yeah, I'm pleased. I'm pleased that this has been resolved reasonably quickly. Like one or two have already mentioned, I don't know why this couldn't have happened 3 or 4 weeks ago, pretty much in the wake of the defeat to Liverpool. I think if this was the plan, it would have been enacted then. I just want to pick up as well on this idea that this means that Poch won't get it on a long-term basis. I disagree with that. I agree a lot with what Philippe Auclair was saying a couple of days ago, in that, you know, there's no reason to suggest that Poch would like to leave Paris Saint-Germain immediately. I think in a perfect world for him, he'll leave at the end of the season. I think he does want the United manager's job, but I think he wants to pick up a trophy or two before doing so, which means staying at PSG. But I also think Ten Hag will be great, but my fear is that he'll choose Man City at the end of the day.
Oh, sorry, I keep muting on here instead of muting on my microphone directly, and it keeps confusing me massively. I agree. I also think what's great about this as well, John, is if this is a progression plan, interim, then permanent in the summer, either of those managers fit, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. I think, unlike Connor, I'm a bit more okay with Poch. I think I'm fine with both, if I'm honest. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying I'm fine with both. I possibly would just favour Ten Hag, but if Ten Hag doesn't want it, I think if Ten Hag wants it, he probably would come now. Given the situation, I mean, his project, with the exception of perhaps winning the Champions League, his project at Ajax is done. So I think if Ten Hag really wants to come to United, he would come now. My thoughts are still that it will be Poch and it will be end of the season. But I'm excited by either of those two choices. I think both would fit perfectly for United and would fit perfectly for a longer term project. I think Zidane was never going to be an option. He doesn't speak English. I think anyone who thinks that he would fit the United model is living in cloud cuckoo land. So I'm happy with Ten Hag or Poch, but I still think Poch has to be the long-term favourite.
Oluwole, I hope I've said your name right there, buddy. Van der Beek Sancho will benefit a lot. Dallo too, I think. I've read quite a number of articles and videos about Ralph's style and philosophy, and I'm eager to see him impart that into this squad that we have. Zakir says somewhere in Manchester, Van der Beek is celebrating on buzzing. He is, because we've seen a video from him today celebrating the fact that he's having a baby girl. So cute. Skyler says, has the Rangnick deal been done yet? Not confirmed, but the Athletic are reporting it's a 6-month interim. The club are talking to Locomotive, which is where he currently works, to get a deal done. He is in Manchester, apparently, as well, and they're just going through the visa process. Shaf mentioned Ollie as well. So we will wait and see on that. Look, John, one last question for you. You're a football purist. You love your football. So what do you actually know about Ralf Rangnick? We hear a lot about he's the godfather of modern football. His philosophy is what has inspired a lot of managers out there today. What do you know about him, and what makes you quite excited to see Manchester United under him?
I think I'm probably more excited about the longer term plan. I mean, I think there will be a bounce, hopefully. But regarding his record in Germany, I mean, perhaps we can look at Leipzig and his legacy rather than the actual time he was there, and perhaps attribute some of their more recent success to him. That's what a Ralf Rangnick positive spin would be. I've also spoken to, just in the last few minutes, a friend of mine who happens to be a Locomotive fan, and he's actually pretty happy with some of the stuff he's done at Locomotive, talking about how he's brought in young players, which, of course, we know about the United ethos regarding young players. He's taken a punt, let's say, on a few unknowns, if you like, certainly super young players, and hopefully he'll see we'll probably hear a story in a couple of years about Locomotive doing very well in the future, and a lot of that will be attributed to Rangnick as well. That is a positive spin. The negative would obviously be about the actual on the pitch success he had whilst at Leipzig wasn't there, but you've got a certain club from Bavaria that would get in the way of any success, I mean, that you would have. I think even a Guardiola or a Klopp currently in Germany would find it very difficult. I know Klopp had his success in the early sort of 2010s at Dortmund, but the landscape in Germany is completely different in the last 7 or 8 years compared to how it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, where there was a chance of a Dortmund or a Leverkusen or whoever having some potential success. That those days, unfortunately, right now have gone in Germany. So I'm optimistic anyway.
One more question for you, John.
Sure.
And I don't know, Connor, if you want to jump on this. Shout out to IQ. AED, does that mean are you in Dubai? You're in the UAE, mate? Whereabouts are you? I was in Dubai for about 3 years. I moved back about 2.5 years ago. So shout out to you for the super chat. How will he be any different to Bielsa? He is a similar style manager in terms of the team working hard, but potentially his teams press a lot higher up, I think, than Leeds maybe, and a lot better, I think, in terms of pushing the ball forward. Bielsa's Leeds teams tend to go back quite a bit, but that might just be down to quality of player. John, you can lead on that one.
To be honest with you, that's exactly what I was going to say, Ben. I think the difference between Bielsa's Leeds and Rangnick's Leipzig, if you like, it's basically the quality of players he has at his disposal. I would actually be quite happy with a not an upgrade on Bielsa as such, but almost a carbon copy, but just with better players. I would be more than happy with that. And if he ends up being a copy of Bielsa, I'll be more than happy, and then let him hand over the keys to Poch or Ten Hag next summer.
Connor, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the only thing slightly that I'd add, obviously at Leeds, Bielsa's had a while to generate the fitness at that club. Now, if Rangnick comes in and tries to generate this high pressing style, which we've not really seen, Ollie tried it, a little bit with the counter attack, but we've not really seen that with this group of players. We've seen how lethargic and lazy they look. Yes, you could look at down tools and all these different kinds of things. If he comes in and day one, he's a clever enough manager, he probably won't do this, but could we see some injuries along the way if trying to change the fitness level straight up? I'm not too sure. I'm not a coach, so I don't know the ins and outs for that work. So that's the only thing I would say. Obviously, Bielsa's had a few years at that. With him coming in, I don't think he's going to be able to implement that straight away just because of the players. They're not going to be used to that. And it's, a completely different fitness ball game when you're playing a high press to what we're playing currently.
100%. Dubai. Well, shout out to you, IQ. Thank you so much for the super chat and thank you for the kind words. That's us done here, I'm afraid, guys. It was only meant to be a quick show and we've been on for 50 minutes, but the breaking news, done deal with Rangnick. He is going to come in on a 6-month interim basis and then take on a 2-year consultancy role. United will hire a new permanent manager in the summer. So many perks to having Rangnick come in, so many uncertainties, so many things that we could be looking forward to, and so many things still to play for. So now's about getting behind the team, behind the coaching staff, behind Rangnick, and supporting our football club like we know best as fans. Let's patch up the division, let's get together, and let's go to the end of the season until the bigger decisions are made. Hit subscribe, get in the comments. If you've got any questions, get them in. We're going to look to try and get someone on who knows a little bit more about Rangnick and do a bit more of a fact file when you can get your super chats in and ask us proper questions and we can go through them. But for now, John, final word from you, mate. Just really, really quickly. I sort of asked you at the start, but if you want to sum up your feelings right now and your reaction to the breaking news.
Listen, love Ollie for so many things he did at the club, but it is time to kind of move on with, and I'm sorry to say this, but a proper football coach. That's basically all I can say, but I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
Looking forward to having you on again soon. Connor, thank you for joining me, mate, and we are out of here. Thank you, guys. Stay safe and speak soon.